There is a sweet illusion silently destroying the weak. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It tells you softly but persistently that as long as you're kind enough, tolerant enough, gentle enough, the world will reward you with love, respect, and peace. You start to believe that if you're always patient with others, always giving in, always smiling and forgiving, then surely people will cherish you. That your life in return will be peaceful and full of meaning. You begin to wear the mask of the good person, hoping that your gentleness will be enough. But Machiavelli delivers a cold truth, one that slices through the illusion like ice through flesh. A truth no one wants to confront, but everyone needs to understand. The uncomfortable reality is this: unconditional kindness is the fastest road to personal collapse. The more blindly kind you are, the more easily others can predict your every move. The more you give without boundaries, the more your power drains away. And the more you long to be loved by everyone, the more vulnerable you become to manipulation, to betrayal, to exploitation by the very people you're trying to please. Kindness, contrary to popular belief, is not a virtue in and of itself. It is a blade. Like any blade, it is dangerous in untrained hands. Only those who grasp the true nature of human behavior know how to sharpen this blade and when to wield it, and take a bold step into the cold, awakening world of Machiavelli. This is a world where power isn't handed to the most agreeable, but fiercely preserved through selectiveness, discipline, and calculated fear. Have you ever been taken advantage of because you were too kind? Betrayed by those you once gave everything to: your time, your energy, your loyalty? Or maybe you're simply searching for clarity about how power dynamics really function behind the social veil. If any of that resonates, then watch this video until the very end. And if this message stirs something in you, makes you pause, reflect, even get uncomfortable, then hit the like button and subscribe. Because here, we're not here to cradle you with fairy tales. We're here to wake you up with uncomfortable truths. People say kindness is good, but Machiavelli said it clearly. Kindness without calculation is stupidity. There's a rule that most kind people never see until it's too late. When you give to icily, people don't admire you. They start to believe you owe them. Your kindness stops being a gift, it starts becoming your duty. You offer it freely, expecting gratitude. But instead, they don't ask why you're so generous. They ask, what else do I get next? That one act of goodwill, once seen as generosity, quickly transforms into expectation. And when you finally draw the line, when you stop delivering what they've come to expect, you aren't met with compassion. You're met with cold judgment. Sound familiar? That coworker you went out of your way to help, remember them? The one you covered for again and again? But the moment you refused to stay late just once, they shot you that side glance, full of silent resentment and disappointment. The lover you supported when they had nothing, the one you stood beside through their darkest days. But the moment you stopped paying their bills, the moment your generosity paused, they said, "You've changed." That's the bitter price of careless kindness. It doesn't lead to gratitude. It breeds endless entitlement. Those who give unconsciously, believing they're spreading goodness, often fail to realize they're cultivating something else entirely: a silent expectation. A mindset forms in others, one that treats your sacrifice not as a gift, but as a deserved service. What once came from your heart becomes something they assume they are owed. They believe that softness leads to peace, that by bending they will avoid conflict. But in truth, they're sowing seeds of quiet resentment, because once people grow accustomed to being indulged, you're no longer perceived as generous. You're seen as the provider, the one who owes them comfort, and the day you stop giving, you won't be met with understanding. You'll be met with bitterness, maybe even rage. Those who rule through emotion, who move through the world seeking to be loved by everyone, inevitably walk straight into this trap. They forgive too fast, they give too much. And slowly, without even noticing, they begin to lose their weight in the eyes of others. At first, they are celebrated, admired, seen as angels, but then the admiration turns into expectation. And when they're no longer able to give, the love they once received evaporates. They are resented because their kindness, once voluntary, has turned into an obligation. And every unmet obligation leaves behind a wound, one that often festers into anger. But contrast that with those who understand the true nature of kindness, a nature rarely spoken aloud. They see it not as a virtue, but as a calculated weapon. They don't use kindness to feel morally superior, use it to hold control. They offer rewards to inspire loyalty. They forgive not to show weakness, but to disarm threats. They show humility not because they're afraid, but because they know it drops an enemy's guard. They give not from guilt, but because it sets a strategic trap. This is the art of choosing, the art of subtle power, the mindset of someone who truly understands the game. Because if kindness is something everyone receives without earning it, then it holds no value. If kindness is too freely given, it becomes cheap. And when that happens, the person offering it loses all leverage. You can be a good person, but if you lack standards, your kindness will eventually eat you alive. So if you're tired of always stepping back, of sacrificing while remaining invisible, of giving while being taken for granted, then this message is for you. You're not alone, and it's not too late to shift. If you're ready to take back your place, to stop being treated as a doormat, keep watching. And if what you've heard so far makes you question the way you've been living, if it makes you feel both seen and challenged, then hit the like button and subscribe. Because in the next chapter, we step into the harsh truth. Kindness is a double-edged sword. Only those who learn when to hold it back, when to draw the line, can survive the silent war of power. Kindness, if left unchecked, turns you into prey. But kindness, when sharpened like a sword, turns you into someone who cannot be defeated. Machiavelli didn't oppose kindness, didn't tell you to be cruel. What he taught was far more exacting. Kindness is not a personality trait, it is a tool. And tools in the wrong hands can destroy the very person using them. The wise don't give because they feel guilt. They give because it shifts the balance, because it earns them something in return. They forgive not out of fear, but because forgiveness builds a quiet debt. They are kind not to be admired, but to define their position when they offer a reward. They are buying loyalty. When they stay silent about a mistake, they are planting unease. It's a quiet tension, one that lingers. So the guilty live in fear, not of punishment already given, but of consequences silently brewing. When they treat a former adversary with grace, it's not surrender, it's strategy, psychological precision. They're not surrendering. They're widening the distance, creating just enough space so the enemy can no longer read their next move, because unpredictability is power. And in this space of silence and ambiguity, the one who holds back controls the tempo of the game. That's why real kindness is not softness. It is a calculated strike, delivered at the right time, to the right person, with the right impact. A true leader doesn't need to be adored. They don't need applause or affection. What they require is calculation-measured decisions that make others pause and think before acting. To make people calculate around you, to make them consider. Their words and actions before they even speak you must be unpredictable. Now imagine this. You walk into a room. Two men are standing there. One of them is all smiles, warm, welcoming, always patting backs, always agreeable. The other, quiet, still. His eyes calm, his expression composed, his words chosen carefully and only spoken when necessary. Which one would you approach first? Most likely the friendly one. But ask yourself, which one would make you second-guess your words? Which one would make you lower your voice, adjust your posture, choose your tone more carefully? It's the second one. And that is the power of strategic kindness. Those who understand this principle don't scatter kindness like confetti. Don't give it away freely to everyone. Instead, they choose with intention. They observe in silence. They carry one simple but profound truth. The more you give without discretion, the more your value dissolves. Just like currency, if printed in excess, it becomes worthless kindness to loses its weight when handed out without thought. That's why those who receive rare rewards cherish them most. Because it's no longer just a kind gesture, it becomes a prize, an earned victory, a recognition of worth after a test passed, A strong man doesn't need to declare he is kind. People feel it, precisely because not everyone gets to experience it. Kindness, when given with restraint, transforms into something else entirely. Silent power. It becomes a signal, a mark of selective favor. It makes people strive harder, compete more intensely, and long not merely for approval, but for your recognition. It's not for material reward, but for the invisible affirmation that they matter. And that's the secret. You turn your presence into a standard, a metric by which others measure themselves in the workplace. A leader who wields kindness with timing and purpose builds a team not just of workers, but of loyal allies. In politics, the leader who knows when to yield and when to stand firm stays rooted even through the fiercest storms. In love, a partner who knows when to hold back affection keeps mystery alive, desire burning, and respect intact. It all follows one principle. Never allow kindness to become your default reflex. Let it be your deliberate strategy, something you choose rather than something you bleed. Because when kindness becomes rare, it becomes revered. And if you do this well, your kindness will no longer be something people expect from you, will be something they respect in you. If you're feeling worn down, if your constant giving has turned into a silent drain, if your once generous nature now feels like a burden you carry alone, then maybe it's time. Time to stop always offering an open hand. Maybe it's time you learn to hold the blade, instead of being the one who always yields. Keep watching this video, because in the next part, we're going to explore one critical truth why treating everyone fairly might be the fastest way to destroy a system. And if you're searching for an awakening, a shift in how you move through the world, don't leave without hitting like and subscribe. Because what comes next will change the way you see kindness forever. Picture this. You are a king, a ruler not just of land, but of hearts and minds. Each day, without fail, you extend your hand in generosity. Hand out favors to all those who are loyal and those who are not. Right. The hardworking, the idle, deserving, and the deceitful all receive the same rewards. You do this not out of ignorance, but because you believe in something noble, absolute fairness. You want history to remember you as the kind king, the just king, the one who made no distinction. But then one day, your most loyal guard, the one who bled beside you, stood watch through bitter winters and never flinched in the face of danger begins to wonder, why should I remain loyal when the traitor beside me receives the same reward? What's the value of sacrifice if betrayal pays just as well? And in the shadows where masks are worn and whispers crawl like vines, the traitor smirks. How easy this is, he thinks. This king is too weak to judge. I can keep playing both sides. In that moment, your fairness is no longer justice. It becomes blindness. You blur the lines between loyalty and betrayal, between diligence and laziness. The message is clear to those watching. Effort is irrelevant, character is ignored and everyone wins regardless. That's exactly what Machiavelli warns us about. This isn't mercy. It's a slow, silent, poisoned, indiscriminate kindness. Disguised in the robes of virtue, it makes you believe you're being loved, admired even, but beneath the surface, what's really happening is far more dangerous. You are losing control. In any power structure, whether it's a kingdom, a corporation, a family, or a personal relationship, power must be balanced by both reward and consequence. There has to be clarity. There has to be order. If everyone receives the same reward, you're no longer leading. You're distributing charity. And charity, when expected instead of earned, becomes invisible. It loses impact. It is no longer a gift it's taken for granted. A wise leader doesn't pour out kindness like a rainstorm. Over a barren land, they don't drown every surface, hoping something grows. No, they water only the trees that are meant to bear fruit. Because they understand a fundamental truth: when you are kind to everyone, you are hurting the few who truly deserve it. You make your strongest allies question their effort. You shake their confidence. They begin to ask, does what I do even matter anymore? Those who do nothing receive just as much as I do. With that question, you lose more than their loyalty. You lose their fire. You extinguish the very drive that built your kingdom in the first place. Meanwhile, the weak become bolder. Laziness grows, and mediocrity flourishes. The structure you've worked so hard to build begins to rot not from attack, but from within. And worst of all, those who are sly, who live by opportunity, sense the shift. They see not kindness, but weakness. They see a ruler who won't enforce standards. And so they come closer not to stand by you, but to study your back, to wait for the moment they can strike. The truth is harsh but clear. No one truly respects the person who forgives everything. No one reveres the one who gives kindness without limit, because they are not dangerous. And if you are not dangerous, you are not feared. And without fear, you will never hold power for long. Unconditional kindness might win you smiles. It might bring you momentary love, but it will never earn you respect. And respect is the bedrock of influence. And the one who is not respected, that person is not followed. They are overlooked, pushed aside. Eventually they are replaced, quietly, without regret. That's why the wise leader asks themselves a critical question: who truly deserves my kindness? But they don't scatter it like breadcrumbs. They bestow it carefully, intentionally, with standards and meaning. They create a culture where kindness is not a given, but a recognition, a reward for loyalty, a signal of competence, a gift for those who bring real value. And because of that, their kindness becomes something more. It becomes powerful. It ignites effort. It sparks ambition. It inspires action. People no longer wait idly for it, like emotional beggars with open hands. No, they work for it. They reach for it. They compete for it. The one who throws kindness around recklessly is like someone tossing gold into the streets and expecting respect for being generous. Think about it. If a man walked through a city throwing coins into the air, would people truly respect him? Or would they simply scramble for the gold, thanked him with empty smiles, and then forget him by morning? Generosity, when handed out without thought or limit, becomes spectacle, not significance. But the one who understands kindness as a symbol of power, who knows when to give, and when to withhold, commands a different kind of silence. Not one of indifference, but of anticipation. Crowds wait in stillness, watching for the moment he chooses to bestow it, because in his world, recognition is rare. Becomes priceless. You don't have to abandon kindness altogether, but you must evolve. Kindness should not pour endlessly like a leaking faucet. It must be measured, earned, remembered. Let your kindness be a blade sheathed in silence. Keep it hidden, guarded. Only draw it when the moment truly demands it, when its appearance becomes a statement, not a habit. And when that moment comes, let the room pause. Let every breath hitch, every eye turn toward you. Not because they expect weakness, but because they recognize strength cloaked in restraint. This is power. Real power. Wearing the soft, quiet mask of kindness. If you've ever caught yourself offering kindness to everyone just to avoid conflict, maintain calm, to hold things together, pause, and ask, did that peace actually make you stronger? Or did it quietly drain your strength, one polite smile at a time? Did your endless giving bring you closer to power? Or did it slowly strip you of respect? If you're ready to rebuild that respect, keep watching. Because what comes next takes you deeper into the realm of true strategy, to the transformation of kindness, not as a guilt-driven obligation, but as a weapon of influence. It's a force to shape your environment, not react to it. If you haven't already, now's the time. Hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any lessons in this psychological power series. These ideas aren't just theory, they're the hard truths that govern how influence, loyalty, and leadership really work. There's a mistake that kind. People often make those who crave connection, who want to be liked, to be admired. They believe if they can win hearts, they'll also win loyalty. If they make people smile, those people will never turn away. That if they're loved enough, they'll be followed until the end. But Machiavelli warned us of this illusion. He called it the illusion of the weak, because affection is the most fragile currency in the world. It shines bright in the moment, but it fades fast. It's sweet, but unstable. One may love you today because of what you do for them, how you make them feel. But will that love endure when you say no, when you disappoint them, When you stop being easy and convenient? More often than not, they don't love you. They love the feeling you give them. And the moment that feeling is gone, so is their affection, vanishing like smoke in the wind. Here's the truth. The most loved people are not always the most respected. But the most respected people, they carry something else. Quiet authority. A gravity. They don't let others get too close without effort. In that distance, it creates order. It demands consideration, shapes behavior. If you want to earn that kind of respect, you need boundaries. Clear, non-negotiable boundaries. Boundaries define the difference between generosity and servitude, between giving because you choose to and giving because others have come to expect it. People without boundaries live in a spiral, loop of constant sacrifice, emotional debt, and quiet resentment. They become easy to use, easy to forget. But those with boundaries, they live with clarity. They know who they are. Others know it too. They carry weight when they enter a room not because they shout, but because they don't have to. Have you ever met someone like this? A person who always says yes, always helps, always shows up, always gives more than asked. At first, people admire them. They're praised for being selfless, dependable, generous. But over time, something shifts. Slowly, people stop valuing their help. They start to expect it. They begin treating this person not as a valued ally, but as a doormat, a stepping stone to use, then abandon. A life raft during the storm, tossed aside the moment the sky's clear, and that's the danger. And when that person finally gets angry and demands fairness, what do people say? They don't ask what led to the frustration. They don't reflect on all the silent sacrifices that came before. Instead, they respond with confusion, even judgment. Why are you so moody all of a sudden? You used to help all the time. What changed? Is this your true face showing now? That's the cruel irony of living without boundaries. When you give constantly, people stop seeing it as generosity. They see it as your duty. And once it becomes expected, it's no longer admired. It's demanded. The day you finally say enough, you're not met with compassion, but with disappointment. You're not appreciated. You're questioned. And worst of all, you become the villain in a story you spent years writing with love. That's the price of living without boundaries. You won't be valued, so you'll only be relied upon until you can't carry the weight anymore. And when you collapse under the pressure, you're not lifted up. You're blamed, even by those you gave everything to. But now contrast that with those who walk differently. People who live with strong, clear boundaries. They create an entirely different atmosphere. Their kindness is not automatic, it's intentional. Their help is not expected, it's treasured. When they offer support, it comes with weight, with meaning. People don't throw demands at them carelessly. They pause. They consider, and if they're fortunate enough to receive their help, they feel honored, not entitled. Boundaries are not coldness. They are the quiet armor of those who understand their worth. They are how you say to the world, I am not here to be everyone's comfort. I am here to be respected. Machiavelli once said, a ruler doesn't need to be loved, but must be feared. Let's take that a step further. If people aren't afraid to disappoint, you're afraid to lose your trust, your presence will never truly matter in their eyes. Because here's the truth. Affection is emotional, changes with the wind. But respect is built on consistency, on standards, on the courage to say no. And when people know you can say no, really say it without flinching, they begin to think twice before asking. When they know your bar is high, they rise to meet it. And when they know you don't forgive endlessly, they start choosing loyalty over convenience. Exploitation becomes risky and risk changes behavior. If you've ever felt hurt simply because you wanted to be liked, if you've bent over backwards just to be accepted, it's time to stop. It's time to change your script. Build a new version of yourself, one that draws lines, that sets the rules, that demands to be seen not as a servant, but as a standard, a version that says no, not with cruelty, but with clarity. Because the moment you can say no without guilt, that's when your yes starts to carry real power. If this message resonates, If you see a part of yourself in these words, drop a like to show you're truly listening. Hit subscribe so we can walk this road together. Not a road of blind kindness, but one of conscious strength. This is the path for those who refuse to be ruled by the demands of others. For those ready to reclaim their voice, their value, and their inner authority. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the hidden playbook of the powerful. How the wisest minds use kindness not as weakness, but as a trap, tool, a psychological move to win influence, dissolve resistance, and even bring enemies to their knees. Yes, even kindness can be a weapon if you know how to wield it. And here comes a bitter truth when most people aren't. Ready to hear? People aren't loyal to you because you're kind, or loyal only when they believe they have no better alternative that might sting, but it's real. Kindness doesn't create permanent loyalty. It creates expectations. And expectations grow like weeds. The more you give, the more they want. The more you sacrifice, the more they believe you always will. And then one day, when you finally hit your limit, when you're exhausted, drained, burned out, don't expect understanding. Don't expect gratitude. Expect blame. Because this world has a short memory for kindness. It doesn't remember all you gave. It only remembers whether you're still giving, still useful, still beneficial. And when you're no longer those things, they'll leave. You thought kindness would keep them close, that it would bind them to you. But no, they were never close to you. They were close to the comfort you gave. The moment someone else offers more, offers easier, they'll go. The pain that follows the ache in your chest won't come from their absence. It will come from the realization that their affection was never built on respect. It was built on benefit. The pain, the deep, stinging disappointment doesn't come from their absence. It comes from knowing that their loyalty was conditional. Their care was transactional. Like a shadow that only appears when the light is in your favor. And the moment it shifts, so do they. Machiavelli never taught us to be cruel. He didn't teach manipulation for its own sake. He taught us to look at human nature without the rose-colored lens of wishful thinking. To see people not as we wish they were, but as they truly are. He warned us, loyalty is not built on love. Loyalty is built on structure, boundaries, and discipline. Think about it. When an army is poorly trained, it collapses at the first sound of battle. When a child is raised without rules, they grow entitled, taking everything for granted. And when a community lacks discipline, it spirals into disorder and chaos. You can love your followers. You can care deeply for those around you. But if you want them to remain loyal, truly loyal, you must shape that loyalty. You must guide it. You must teach them what is acceptable and what is not. You must make it clear that loyalty isn't. A birthright's a result. It's the result of tests, effort, and commitment. Loyalty that's never been tested isn't loyalty, it's comfort. Only through the fires of discipline can true allegiance be forged. You don't need a massive audience applauding your every move. You need the ones who've walked through fire beside you and didn't run. It's the ones who didn't leave when things got hard. The ones who know who you are because they paid a price to stand next to you. And it is that price, the sacrifices they've made, that makes betrayal a harder choice. Kindness is easily forgotten. Discipline is not. Because discipline leaves a mark. It creates value. People rarely cherish what comes without effort, but they respect deeply what costs them sweat, time, tears, and transformation. In a place without standards, where everyone is treated the same regardless of effort, what happens? The opportunists sneak in, the lazy survive, and the competent, they leave. Because no high-performing person wants to give their best in a space where excellence isn't recognized and betrayal isn't punished. That's the danger of overkindness without structure. You end up attracting everyone, including those who don't belong. You give, and then wonder why you were betrayed. The answer often lies in the foundation. What standards did you set for others? Or did you simply give without any? Boundaries at all? You can be kind to everyone, but you should only keep those who are worthy. And how do you find the worthy? You test them with time, with responsibility. with your refusal to say yes when you know you should say no. Because loyalty isn't found in the easy moments, it's born in pressure, in difficulty, in those moments where someone had every reason to walk away, but still chose to stay. If you've ever been betrayed and didn't see it coming, take a moment and reflect. Were your boundaries too soft? Did you offer loyalty without ever asking for it in return? Because remember this powerful truth in bounded giving breeds betrayal, but discipline. Discipline acts like a gate, one that only the truly loyal will pass through. Don't chase loyalty by being endlessly kind. Seek it in those who stayed when you set rules, in those who didn't flinch when you said enough, in those who respected your no more than they loved your yes. If you're trying to build something that lasts, whether it's a business, a movement, a partnership, or a legacy, start with discipline, not kindness. Let kindness flow after the foundation is set, not before. If this part awakens something in you, if you recognize your own story in these words, tap like and hit subscribe. Let's continue together through these deeper lessons, because there is one truth many refuse to accept, simply because it feels too cold, too raw. Affection is the easiest thing to betray. Why? Because it has no structure, no rules. It's built entirely on emotions. And emotions, as we know, are as fleeting as the wind. And emotions, as you know, change faster than the weather. They're unpredictable, shifting like clouds caught. In the wind, you could pour your heart into someone, could do everything they needed, be kind, speak with sincerity, support them through storms. And yet one day, everything changes. It's not because of something cruel, but simply because of one no. One moment when you didn't meet an expectation, that's all it takes. They leave. And you're left sitting in silence, asking yourself, what did I do wrong? But the truth is, you did nothing wrong. Your only mistake was placing loyalty on a foundation made of affection. And affection, while beautiful, is far too fragile to carry the weight of real commitment. Blight. Building a house on sand, pleasant for a while, till the tide inevitably comes in? Machiavelli understood this long before we did. He didn't encourage cruelty, he revealed clarity. Said, if you must choose between being loved and being feared, choose to be feared. Why? Because affection is conditional. It lasts only as long as you keep pleasing others. Fear the right kind of fear remains even when the mood shifts. Think about it. Someone who adores you today can despise you tomorrow. But someone who fears crossing your boundaries, who respects the standards you've set and the consequences you enforce, they will pause. Not because they like you, because they understand the rules. Fear creates boundaries, and boundaries are the blueprint of respect. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't need to be harsh or domineering. You simply need to communicate. This, I am kind, but I'm not someone you can use. I am calm, but I will act when disrespected. Just like that, your presence begins to create order without a word. When people understand you operate with boundaries, dignity, and clear consequences, they think twice. Not because they fear punishment, but because they recognize something deeper: you cannot be controlled. And in a world obsessed with influence and persuasion, the people who cannot be manipulated are often the most respected and the most feared. Ironically, the ones who seek love from everyone often end up the weakest. But those who set clear standards, those who don't bend for approval, they alter how others behave. Affection will keep people close when things are easy. But it's fear that keeps them loyal when life becomes difficult. Imagine a team that loves their leader, but knows there are no consequences for betrayal or failure. That team will fall apart the moment uncertainty arrives. But a team that may not always like their leader, but respects the line that cannot be crossed, that team will endure. Because fear, unlike love, doesn't need daily maintenance. It only needs to be proven once. You can forgive, but let it be clear. Your forgiveness is a gift, not a guarantee. People must learn, if they abuse your kindness, the warmth they once relied on can vanish, can become distant, cold. Affection may win hearts, but it also opens the door to disappointment. Fear not the fear of violence, but of earned boundaries, unwavering self-respect, and clarity of consequence keeps you protected. It commands attention. It creates a barrier against those who only show up to take. If you've ever felt abandoned, after giving your all, remember this: you weren't betrayed because you weren't enough. You were betrayed because you never showed them where enough was. And if you want to build an identity that won't crumble, it's one that stands firm no matter who comes or goes. Stop chasing affection. Start cultivating respectful fear. Because affection, it is like the wind. But respect, it is the foundation. If this truth struck a chord within you, drop a like and hit subscribe to continue this journey toward building unshakable inner power where no one's departure can ever break you again. There's one word that modern society deeply fears: harshness. It's often misunderstood and unfairly labeled as the tool of tyrants, ruthless bosses, or cold-hearted parents. But Machiavelli taught us something quite different. Harshness is not cruelty. It is clarity. In a world where emotions flood every decision and soften every boundary, clarity becomes the rarest and most precious thing of all. You can't hold an army together with kindness alone, nor can you run a family, an organization, or a nation with a heart too soft to enforce limits. Not because people are evil, but because people will always test limits if they're left undefined. They will push further and further when consequences don't follow. They will toy with order, eroding trust and structure until one day, when you finally try to intervene, it's already too late. A single act of harshness, delivered at the right time, can save an entire system from collapse. But prolonged softness, it quietly kills everything from the inside out. Picture a leader who constantly seeks to be loved by all, who avoids tough decisions because they don't want to hurt feelings. It sounds noble, almost admirable, doesn't it? Yet what happens? The lazy push boundaries without fear, the disloyal act without punishment, the loyal lose faith and begin to doubt. The capable and competent slowly walk away. What was once called compassion becomes fertile ground for chaos to take root. On the other hand, the one who dares to act decisively, the one unafraid to be disliked for making the hard calls, is the true preserver of order. Because this person understands one immutable truth: emotion must surrender to principle. Punishment is not about revenge. It is a necessary warning, a cleansing fire that burns away laziness, betrayal, and silent disorder. A fair and timely punishment speaks louder than 1,000 pleas for love or understanding. You may call it cruelty, but here is the real truth. Where there is no harshness, there are no limits. And without limits, destruction is inevitable. A father who sets no rules watches his child lose direction. A leader who avoids consequences sees loyalty crumble. Harshness isn't a whip that strikes people down. It's the frame that holds the entire system upright, protects those who are loyal. It deters opportunists who seek to exploit weakness, and most importantly, sends one unmistakable message: there are laws here, and they will be enforced. A society, a family, a team is only truly strong when every member fears doing wrong. Out of fear of insults or humiliation, but fear of the consequences that inevitably follow. If you've ever hesitated when you needed to act firmly, remember this: too much kindness doesn't earn respect. Instead, it makes you appear weak. If you are the one in charge, the leader, the pillar holding things together at home or at work, remember this clearly: you won't always be loved, but you must always be respected. If this message has stirred something inside you, tap like and hit subscribe to continue this journey of becoming the kind of person who upholds order in a world crumbling under the weight of too many feelings and far too few principles. The modern world is saturated with hollow advice. Be kind to everyone. Be likable. Let love lead the way. It all sounds noble, even right. But Machiavelli would look you squarely in the eye and say bluntly, the man who tries to be loved by everyone will be ruled by those he tries to please. Why? Because the more likable you are, the easier it becomes for others to dismiss you. The more predictable you seem, the easier you are to exploit. And the more unconditional your kindness, the more you forfeit your right to be respected. The world doesn't need another pleasant man. It needs someone who knows exactly when to withhold kindness, who sets clear limits, and who is willing to become terrifying when pushed to the edge. You don't need to be cruel, but you do need to be someone others dare not test. You don't have to raise your voice. Your calm, steady gaze alone should be enough to make someone stop mid-sentence and reconsider. You don't need to threaten. Sometimes your silence alone should make others ask themselves, what did I just do wrong? That is true power. Power does not come from muscle, money, or titles. It comes from your ability to control your kindness. The more you scatter kindness around like a desperate plea for acceptance, the more meaningless that kindness becomes. The more you seek to be loved, the more you risk becoming hated instead. At the moment you say yes to everything, you lose yourself. You become a weak imitation of the expectations others have imposed upon you. The one to truly fear is not the man who is always angry. It is the man who remains calm, whose next move you can never predict, but isn't forgive easily. But when he does, you know, you've been granted something rare, and you won't dare make the same mistake again. You don't need the whole world to love you. What you need is a small circle of people who stay loyal because they understand that you are fair but not weak, cold but reasonable. Your kindness is something to be earned, not handed out for free. Remember this, the likable man must constantly please everyone. The feared man only needs to stand still, and people will adjust themselves around him. The likable man is exhausted, always maintaining an image. The feared man commands respect because he does not need to perform. If you must choose, don't choose to be loved, choose to be respected. Don't choose to please, choose to control. Don't be the man who is kind to everyone only to be walked on because he never learned to say no. Be the man no one dares to underestimate, because they know your silence is more dangerous than 1,000 threats. If what I've shared has made you reflect on yourself, tap like and hit subscribe to continue. This journey of mastering the psychology of power is because the likable are soon forgotten, but the feared are remembered by history.